Oh, that was 25 seconds of bliss. Hi everyone, and welcome to my part 2 of How the Cards Spoke to Me. If you did get the chance to view the first video, it was actually concentrating on the Tower card. For I have been having quite an intimate relationship with that card for the past 10 months. And I did share in the past video that I was a little perplexed as to how things were rolling out. It certainly wasn't bad. It's just that I couldn't see or identify the physical changes around me. I mean, there were some, but they seemed to be quite minimal in comparison to what was going on internally. So the Tower shook me up and many changes were made. It felt like a cellular level, I kid you not, and it wasn't until the last quarter of the year that I felt that they were starting to formulate, if you like, into a more solid state. Like, in other words, I could see my perceptions changing and I heard my dialogue change to my surprise, just the way I was dealing with people. And I do believe that one of the main requirements, I'm not sure if I should call it a main requirement, but I think an important part of this journey for me is to reevaluate boundaries in relationships and who stays and who goes. Aside from my own behavior and perception of my world, I couldn't see anything tangible shifting. I mean, if the Tower card comes up 4 times in a year, that's huge, or at least I thought it should be. It should be something that I can see without having to look too hard, because it is the Tower card. So I sat here thinking, well, what must be done? I wanted to do it myself. I'm keen to adhere to that energy. I love change, but I just didn't know what it was. So last week I woke up with a certain drive. It seemed to me, as soon as I opened my eyes, I felt I had to come into my healing room and pull everything out. That's when I realized, okay, be careful what you wish for, because the answer came very swiftly. I don't know why, but I felt certain pieces of furniture that I truly love need to go, and I need to streamline my room. And if you know me at all, you know that I'm very energy sensitive and I practice energy healing. And I felt that even though I cleanse this room, I am surrounded by beautiful crystals that are loved and nurtured and cleansed, the energy was not right for me. And I'm presuming that is because I have changed. I have just gone through a big shift. Therefore, my surroundings no longer match the person that I'm growing into. So I had to pull it all apart. The other thing that was scary for me was I have too many of these beautiful things that I love. So I've got to try and keep this brief, but you can see before you my little writer's table. Most of you will know it already. And you can see here it sits between 2 windows. And that is where I had my sideboard. And my sideboard filled that space beautifully. And it was also my altar. So it's an important piece and an important place in this room. There's a strange irony. It filled the space, but I need space. So it has to go. I don't know how else to describe it. It was the strangest thing. And the push was urgent. I needed to get that sideboard out now. Isn't that bizarre how, you know, you still feel the love in your heart, but it was like, nope, no, it's too busy. It's got to go. So right now, I've actually managed to place it in my workroom where I had an old bench that was fixed to the wall. So the next thing, I've got a mallet and I literally demolished this bench that's very, very sturdy. And I have placed my sideboard in there. It can be used as a bench, but I will, of course, sell it. The beauty of this situation is I feel like the idea is to wait until the right person comes along. So there's no rush to sell it, but it'll go to the person it's meant to go to. But in the meantime, I can get on with my life. So there you have it. Just feel like no trinkets, no little cutie pieces of furniture or stands or whatever. It must be plants or nothing. So as I explained, this will be, you know, I can open this up, I can place spreads, candles, whatever it is that I need to do here, and any working decks, well, they've always been there and they will remain there. So that was the first big change that I felt. My writer's table remains. It is quite large, but I love the fact that it's round. You'll see that there are 4 chairs. The 2 wooden chairs belong to the dining table that I'm selling. Just don't have the room to store all of them in my workroom at the moment. But the fact that there are 4 chairs around the table is driving my new self crazy. I really need just 2 chairs for myself and the client, and it's just looking too crowded. I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like I'm under instruction at the moment. Like, I keep giggling to myself. Again, be careful what you wish for. It was driving me crazy last year that I didn't know the next step. And of course, I think the response from the energy was, don't worry, dear, I'll take it away. I'll make sure it's taken away. You just go about your merry way until I decide I'm ready. And it's almost like that day last week, he set the alarm. Get up, get going. So that was a very, very interesting shift for me. Okay, so I'll just put this camera down here. I'll show you the next shift that occurred. I have a beautiful little gathering in the center of my healing room now, which I love. I felt compelled to place all of my sound healing instruments in the center of the room. And that's all very well, and it's almost like a little console now, and I've been using them very regularly in my own time, which I think is the whole idea behind this. But of course, what used to be here is my healing table. So to be honest, that was the next thing to go. That's a little scary for me because I practice energy healing. Yet I felt that the healing table in the center of this spacious room was dividing the room. It was taking up too much space. Then the logical mind steps in and says, well, it's a healing room, for crying out loud. What do you want me to do? So I feel very strongly about keeping the massage table for now. And then I went into, oh dear God, where am I going to store this thing? And then I came up with a clever idea. I just folded it up and I thought I'll just use this as a little table. So if I need to unpack, if I need to set the table up, it really is effortless. But as soon as a client leaves, I'm going to be putting it down again. But I have slowed my healing practices right down. And of course, last year I didn't know why I was doing that to myself. As it stands, I feel that I need a break. But I do not believe at this time that my journey is over with metaphysical products and tools and philosophies and practices. It's my world. It has been all my life. I can't see me studying accountancy. Oh dear God. The only thing I do with numbers is numerology, and that's as far as it goes. So, not much more to say about that other than, yeah, I'm in limbo just a little bit, but I'm starting to learn that that's the way it is meant to be. It's only my conscious mind, my ego mind, that's in limbo because it's so used to organizing things. And I do feel that where I fell into uncertainty last year was because I felt that I wasn't doing something, and the idea was just to be. I think the idea was to observe and take in my surroundings. And I'm not going to lie to you, I did that. I did that many times. I did pull myself up and think, if there's nothing happening, there's a reason for it. And I always remember my teacher saying, if you have no one walk through the door today, that's because you need time alone, you need rest, or there's something that you need to attend to for yourself. Trust the process. And just because my ego mind cannot make sense of it doesn't mean it's wrong, or it doesn't mean it isn't occurring. So I'm back into that mindset, and I'll only say that in 2017, the difference is I feel far more comfortable with it, and I'm quite happy to be patient. The only difference is I'm starting to feel a little bit nervous. I feel a little bit of anxiety only starting to build up since I pulled that table down. And I have to really pull myself up and continue to trust this process. The anxiety obviously comes because if I've got no one coming through for healings, that really cuts down my wage. You know, we do have bills to pay, don't we? So I sense that this is making way for something else. But I cannot take steps towards something else because I have no idea what that something else is. And what I fell into last year was a void. And not a void, but a void. And, you know, at times it's a little bit disconcerting, isn't it? Especially if you are used to creating your own world and, you know, you run your own little business or you're a sole trader. It's almost that sense of, well, if I don't do it, it's not going to happen. And perhaps, I feel like I just had a little epiphany then, perhaps that's the whole point. By placing these sound instruments in the middle of the room, I get the sense that behind it all, it's about energy. And by moving them together, the energy is concentrated. And there was that sense for me that the massage table was right in the center, dividing the energy. It's almost like a reboot. And I think that's the main reason that I can feel and sense at this time. And I feel like it's a good thing. I will be honest with you. I feel it is one of those areas where you could talk about it forevermore. It will be as deep as you wish it to be. And being a Scorpio, I have to be very careful of that because we just tend to delve. That is our job, to delve deeper and deeper and deeper into the darkness in order to allow what needs to die and release and prepare for transformation and rebirth. My point being, I could say so much more about this. I'm discovering more and more as I go along. It never feels too deep for me mentally. However, I struggle to articulate what I'm feeling. It just makes sense to me in my mind. But explaining it is a different kettle of fish. It's hard work, and I do run the risk of rambling. There's no denying it. So I will leave it at that for the moment, but I think you would get the idea. You can see just beyond my sound tools is what appears to be a mattress on the floor. I purchased quite some time ago, years ago now, some very good quality foam, and I've wrapped a quilt around it and I placed that on top of my healing table for extra comfort. So, of course, when I pulled this room apart, I thought, oh, God, where am I going to put this now? You know, I'm supposed to be getting rid of things, but this foam is very good quality and it's hard to get now. I think there's a lot of rubbish around, put it that way. So I just in the interim tossed it on the floor. And then one day I was sitting here, it was probably the following day, and my back was sore from moving that sideboard, dear God. And I just lay down on it and I thought, this is fantastic. So what an irony. Again, just letting things happen. I placed it on the floor and then I found myself sitting here and meditating or laying down and just gathering my thoughts, doing it in this room that I call the healing room. And I think that was the other thing that came through for me. I feel the message here, or at least one of the main messages, is not just to create space But when I step back here, this is reminiscent of the way the healing room used to be. When I first started, there was a lot of physical space here. Other than that, I feel the idea at this time is this needs to, but it needs to be my healing room at this time, not the healing room. And that does not mean I'm not going to allow any client to come in, but there's a very different underlying energy to that. There's a different purpose behind the room. This room started off as my healing room, my room where I contemplate and draw cards. And then, of course, I decided to start my little business at home. It's been a wonderful journey, and I don't believe I need to shut it down altogether, but I just feel that this is part of my test. I need to concentrate on getting myself to the next stage of my journey before I continue to help other people. All I need to concentrate on is what is going on now. So my point being, there is a reason that there's a mattress on the floor. There is a reason that there are sound bowls sitting in the middle of the room. When I went into a charity shop, you know me, I spent a lot of time there. I like to make donations regularly, and I had a couple of very decent donations for them. And as I walked into the shop, I saw this old bookcase. When I looked at it, I just felt it was perfect for what I require at this time. It has a cupboard for storage because I lost my sideboard. It has different, the shelves are different heights, which I feel the top is going to be great for gypsy cards and Lenormand, etc. And then obviously the lower two levels are fine for both books and oracle decks and tarot decks. And of course that beloved cupboard where I can put my candles and other things that I use regularly. So being a charity shop, it was inexpensive. It's solid wood. I just felt it was right. I allowed myself an overnight think, and it was still on my mind very clearly the following day, so I decided to call them. But what I didn't realize first up was there were two. I walked down to the end of the shop. It's quite a long, narrow space, and he was the partner. So you can see that the cupboard is on the opposite side. So again, there's a part of me that says this is ridiculous. You've still got furniture on this side, but I feel this is cleaner. I feel it's one piece of furniture that just happens to sit each side of a doorway. So it just works well for me in every way. So for the moment, I've just placed crystals, as you can see, on that smaller shelf, but none of this is permanent. This will make way for decks as time goes on and books, etc. But for now, it's, you know, it's clean. I've left some of my crystals out, but I did mention to you in my last video that I felt compelled to pack most of them away, and I have. My selenite and crystal skulls will always be by my side. There's just no doubt about it. That's a rocking copper sphere that I purchased in the States, so that really assists the energy to, I don't know, expand and, well, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, folks. You know, copper. It just ignites the energy, and that's not the word I'm looking for either, but I think you get the idea. I really need to move on. Clearly, I'm going brain dead. Anyway, it enhances the energy of a crystal if you put copper. Oh, isn't that the worst thing in the world when you... It's a very simple word, and I can't think of it, but I think I'll just leave it at that before I embarrass myself even further. And the other thing that I felt very, very strongly about was placing my crystal ball away, covered by a cloth, and cleansing it. I always did cleanse it, but cleansing it more often and actually practicing with it, practicing scrying. So that's interesting in itself. Down there, I just made a scrying mirror. I had an old picture frame that I didn't use, and you can see here there's just some sage and some black tourmaline. I've got some smoky quartz there, some labradorite, And this is Zorro, I named this boy. He's there for protection. You can see he means business. He actually is Blue Tiger Iron. He's not here to pussyfoot around. So, yeah, that's something that came to me very sort of directly, that you've been sitting there admiring this almost as an ornament. It didn't come into your life to be an ornament. This is a scrying tool. Respect it for what it should be. So I thought that was really quite interesting, that all of a sudden I felt compelled to place a lot of my crystals into storage and use them as a tool, but when they are not being used, they're not to sit out here like this being an ornament. I love crystals more than I can say, but it's almost like the feeling is they are to be, how can I say this? It's like a crystal toolbox. So you open the toolbox, you use what needs to be used, and then you place it back in the toolbox. So I ended up purchasing this, not because I felt this way last week. I purchased this, gosh, I can't even remember if it was before or after Christmas. I think it was before Christmas. And I thought, what a wonderful little storage compartment for, or a little, you know, storage system for crystals. And that's what I've done. I've packed a lot of my crystals away, especially the ones I bought in the US. They were actually, like when you buy them, a lot of the shops place the crystal in a box, which I thought was fantastic for travel. And I've decided to put them all back in various boxes and bags. I need to, like, get them into some kind of order, but these are a lot again that I purchased in the States, and I kept the bags. They've all got there because it's really easy to get them mixed up. So I'm pleased I kept the bags. And how strange it was that I did. It's not something that you normally do, but I felt, now this is 4 years ago, this April, that I left for the US. Yet I felt, look, these take up no room, place them in a little box and just put it in storage. I just felt one day I'll need them again. So it either means I'm going to sell them, and it's fabulous to be able to have the proper labels for them. That's not all my crystals, please understand. It's just the ones I bought in the US. But yeah, they'll either sell or they just need to be used very differently. I still have another little dish here on my sound table that I use, but again, most of them, I have quite a few palm-sized crystals. They're all tucked away in boxes. So really that's as it stands. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm going to be doing some spreads over the coming days just to check in, see how I'm going on my journey, whether I'm getting the right message or not. With regards to this tower journey, and I'll let you know how I go. So thank you very much for watching and taking this journey with me, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.